we're gonna get started. We have some few people that are checking in. So I'm required to read this. The electors and citizens qualified to vote in town meetings in the town of Andover are hereby notified that the annual budget meeting for the town of Andover will be held at the Andover Elementary School in the Gymnasium, 35 School Road, Andover, Connecticut, on Tuesday, May 13th, 2025 at 7 p.m. for the following purposes: choose a moderator for said meeting, to receive the budget for the fiscal year July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2026 as prepared by the Board of Finance, to approve budget for the fiscal year July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2026, to adjourn. I'm going to have, before we get started with any of the specifics, I am going to have the town attorney discuss item number 3. Dennis O'Brien is our town attorney.
Great to be here again. Can you hear me? I'm Dennis O'Brien. I live in Willimantic. I've been town attorney here for more than 20 years. I've been to a few of these meetings, but I've never been able to vote. Never been able to vote because I don't live in Andover. But tonight, I'm afraid to tell you, I am afraid to tell you that there won't be any vote taken tonight. Okay, it says so on the notice, which I actually reviewed and approved, but I hadn't looked at the charter in a while. Okay, the charter was changed in 2022 to require 2022, Scott. Again in 2024. I'm going back for it. Okay, thanks for trying to help me. Appreciate it. Anyway, the charter was changed in 2022 to add a section 803D that required that if a budget failed at referendum, it would be split into 2 parts, bifurcated. One part would be the education budget, and one part would be the town budget. Okay, as you all know, the budget failed at referendum, so it has to be bifurcated. And so I got a call late last week from our chairman of our Board of Finance, Mark Brinker, telling me that there was some language in section 803T that I hadn't been aware of because I hadn't looked at it for 3 years. And the language says that the town meeting, after the budget fails, and it has to be bifurcated and it's on its way to referendum, the town meeting can only review and discuss the budget before it goes to referendum. So all we can do tonight, I'm sorry to tell you, is to review and discuss the budgets before it goes to referendum. Now, the Board of Finance met like last week, and they modified the budget. Okay, they're going to talk about that tonight and inform you about the budget. You can discuss it, but sorry to say you cannot vote at this meeting on the budget. You have to go to the referendum. The referendum will be held under that charter section 2 weeks from tonight. Now, when I first saw that, I said, oh, no, that can't be in there. I looked at it and I saw the language in there. It's in section 803D. Clear as clear it can be. The one thing, I had the same thought that our former town clerk and now member of Board of Selectmen, Carol Lee, had, that we need to check this out to make sure that this language was properly put in there. Charter revision is a long and sometimes can be long and sometimes complicated process, whereby you start out with a Charter Revision Commission, paneled by the Board of Selectmen, and then it goes to the commission, works with the Board of Selectmen over a period of usually months, and tries to finalize the language of the proposed charter, and then we have to formulate questions to go on the ballot. So we needed to check to make sure that everything was done properly and that this language, which is keeping us from voting tonight, was properly put into the charter. And I checked it, and Carol checked it. We spent hours checking it because we wanted to make sure that I had to come here today at the request of my good friend, Mr. McGuire, and be the one to give you the bad news that you cannot vote tonight. but I have no choice. There's no question that the charter will not allow us to vote tonight. Charters can always be changed. You may want to recommend changes. We do charter revisions quite often here in Andover, so that's a possibility. But anyway, there will be no vote. There cannot be a vote. And I'm sorry to be the one to have to tell you, but I'm always happy to be in Andover. Thank you very much.
So what does that mean for us? We can review the budget, modified by the Board of Finance. We cannot make any motions to sit there or accept or reduce the budget as put to move it to referendum. If the budget as it's stated here will go to referendum. We all are here because we need to ask questions and be more informed about what is going on related to the budget, okay? So we're going to move on to item 1 within our agenda, and that is to choose a moderator for said meeting. Nominate Wally Barton. Wally Barton is my nominee. We have a second. Dave Gastanian is second. Scott Soyette was the nominee. Do we have any other nominees for the moderator? Hearing none, Wally Barton is said moderator.
All right, at this time, I'm turning the floor over to Martin Rickard, so we can have a presentation.
Thank you, Wally. For any of you who've been to the budget meetings for the past few years, you know who I am. I'm Mark Brinker. I'm the chairman of the Board of Finance.
You turn the volume up.
Yeah.
We buy a second microphone someday?
How's this?
That's better.
Better?
That's really one stuff.
So I just want to welcome you on behalf of the entire Board of Finance. This is truly a team effort. The town staff, the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance, and everybody who's interested in the hearings and everything else. So thank you for participating. I think as Joe and, or Dennis and Jeff have explained, what we'll be doing now is primarily an informational session. We'll go through it. I'm not going to spend a lot of time going over the past stuff that hasn't changed, but we will talk about the top numbers, and I'll talk about what has changed, and then we'll open up the floor for any questions that you may have. So just this is our agenda for tonight. I want to talk a little bit about the budget process. We are in new territory here. This is bifurcated budget. I believe it's the first time this happened. We are going to cover the expenditures, which are generally for education and then also to the town itself. And then we are going to talk about the revenue, see a summary, talk about the capital plan. We go over that briefly. We covered it last budget meeting in depth. And then we'll have a question and answer period. So I'm not going to read through this whole thing. Most of you have seen this before, I'm guessing. But as you know, the RAM budget, Andover and RAM budgets, the referendums were held on May 13th. The RAM budget did pass. The Andover town budget did fail. So according to the charter, that means we have a bifurcated budget that automatically splits into two different budgets, the town budget and the AES, Andover Elementary School District budget. And they're treated differently now. Basically, two separate budgets, two separate votes. Okay. The Board of Finance, met last week, we made some changes, as Dennis and Jeff mentioned, and we're going to review these changes tonight. We have the new town meeting today, and as Jeff mentioned, there will be a budget referendum on May 27th, so 2 weeks from today. Okay, so this is our new budget. It's $12 million, I'm sorry, $12,899,425. This is really a misnomer. There's two separate budgets, but that's the total top line, just so we have it for reference. So out of this, we have the Andover Board of Education budget. The recommended budget is $4,565,461. This is an increase of $270,403, or an increase of 5%. The RAM is not changed. It's at $4,135,532, slight decrease for Andover. And as I covered in the last meeting, the reason we have a decrease from Andover is because the proportion of Andover students at the RAM district has decreased for this year. Therefore, our estimated allotment is really based on the percentage of Andover students. So we're fortunate to have a decrease this year. And then we have the town budget. The overall town budget is at $4,198,433, with a decrease of $104,195. And that's a net change of minus 2.4%. And we'll talk about how we got here. This chart's pretty much the same. Hasn't changed much. We did see a slight decrease in the breakout for the Andover Board of Education budget, but it's really basically the same. You can think about it as a third. 1/3 RAM, 1/3 ADS, and 1/3 the town. Okay, Andover Elementary School budget. So we had some changes here. Okay, the Andover Board of Ed originally requested a budget of $4,729,155, which was an 8.8% increase from the last approved budget. And after the failure referendum, the Board of Finance had a lot of discussions, and we ended up reducing the requested budget to $4,565,461, which is still an increase from last year's approved budget of about 5%. So $217,403 roughly. So drivers for the increase, the need for the increase budget for the school. It's been covered quite a bit at these meetings. The Board of Ed had a lot of informational meetings, et cetera. But basically the drivers are, we have new staff that we requested a plan, benefits cost increases, and there's some technical licensing costs that increase. Okay, RAM budget, I'm not going to spend any time on this. It is what it is. It passed, so it's just here. And if anybody wants any more information on it, really the RAM website would be the best place to go. Okay, town budget. So the town budget is all of the, everything on expenses to the town except for education. There's two components. There's an operational budget. This is just the day-to-day operations that we have to spend in order to keep the town running. And then there's the capital budget. For those, that's the budget for the major town expenditures, so roads, buildings, et cetera, things that we have to save a lot of money for. So the town operating budget. So we made some changes to the town operating budget, both up and down. Okay. The overall increase is about $130,555, or about 4.1% over last year. The major increases, there were a lot of staff salary increases per the contract with the town employees that are covered on the unions. We had a corrected billing for compactors at the transfer station. They were underbilling us for a long time. We got caught. Now we have to pay for it. It's okay. We've benefited for a long time. We have the addition of a community center assistant part-time, about $11,000. We had an estimated cost increase for the state troop, for the resident state trooper. About 14,000 there. We have to remove the brush pile at the transfer station. We do that about every 3 years, so that's the reason what budgeted last year is budgeted this year. That's about $20,000. It was offset, the increases were offset by a reduction in the tipping fees. And these are the fees that we have to pay in order to empty the general waste compactors to town. So those costs went down. So what changes did we make in the town operating budget? So I think all of you that were here last year, or last meeting, seemed like a year ago. Last meeting, you might remember that Joanne had discovered kind of last minute of a possible error in the spreadsheet calculating the health and dental benefits. And we weren't sure because we didn't know. We didn't have the data needed to know for certain whether that was a mistake or not. It turns out it was a mistake in the original file calculation, so we confirmed that with the treasurer, and we corrected that in this budget. So that was about a $30,000 reduction to the town operating expenses from the one we approved last meeting. We also added back $5,000 stipend for the assistant treasurer. We on the Board of Finance had originally taken that out because it was, we were concerned about some liability exposure issues. Those were resolved, so we put that back in. So capital budgets. The capital budget is, as I said, the major budget for the major funds we used for building, for road work, for tree removal, those kinds of things. Okay. We decreased the contributions of the capital budget from 1.247 billion to about 1,015,000. So it's about 232,000 down, or about 18.6% reduction from last year. So there are a couple drivers for that. We reduced the amount to the road improvement fund by 25,000. If you remember from last meeting, we had actually reduced it to 50,000. In this past Board of Finance meeting, we decided to restore another 25,000. And then we also reduced changed the funding for the AES capital fund. You might remember that last year we contributed, kind of seeded that fund with about $100,000. We may need to do that again. But right now, what we're doing is by agreement with the Board of Education, any surplus that they can contribute back to the town from their budget at the end of the operational year will roll into this capital budget. There's a lot of improvements needed in the capital, for the capital type projects as a school, parking lots, bathrooms are not serviceable in one part of it, et cetera. There's a whole list of things, right? So those things all need to be saved for, and the town or the school district itself does not have a capital fund, so that needs to be part of the town's funds, the way it's set up. We reduced the amount to the building maintenance fund by about 67,000, and we also reduced the amount for the open space fund. That really wasn't changed so much from last budget. So the main change in the last proposed budget was that we restored the 25,000 of the 50 we reduced from the town road fund. Capital contributions, just a pie chart. Get the numbers if you need them. They're in the budget. Major contributors: the fire department, public works equipment, and road improvement. That's our number one biggest fund contribution we make for a very good reason. Tree removal, and then bridge and culvert repair and replacement. Also a very big need in town. We're probably still underfunded. So revenue, excuse me, a lot of these things. Many sources of revenue. The budget sheet lists them off, and if you have questions about them, you can let us know or let Eric know. A lot of them is interest. We have state and federal grants. We have state educational cost sharing. We have permits and fees and estimated revenues. Overall, it increased about 85,000, or about 3.2%. So that's a change over the last budget meeting. And the main driver for that is we added back $89,000 for educational cost sharing. We believe that we're going to get that in the state. The original governor's budget proposal had cut the educational cost sharing fund, so we lost that as a source of revenue. It looks like it's going to get restored by the legislature, so everybody cross your fingers, and we get that back. So we have added that back into the revenues in this budget. Okay, so here's the budget summary. Again, it's really two budgets that we're looking at, but this obviously has an overall impact, and that's what you're going to want to know about as we go forward. The Andover Elementary, we've already said, we're at $4.565 million, about an increase of about 270,000 or 5%, okay, down from the original 8.8% requested by the Board of Ed. The Board of Finance took that down quite a bit. The RAM budget is as it was, there's no change there. And then the town budget, again, down slightly, $104,195. That's after the changes we made. So down on the capital, or down overall 1.4%. Fund balance used. So the fund balance is our kind of our contingency fund, if you will. There's recommendations from the state about how much we should have available should we encounter a natural disaster or something else that would prevent us from providing services or really highly increase the amount of services that we have to provide, flood, hurricane, that kind of thing. So that's what the fund balance is there. It's kind of a safety fund, contingency fund. There are guidelines from the state. We feel that we're well within those guidelines. In fact, we're probably a little bit overly funded. So we did increase the amount of the fund balance by $40,000. So we're going to take about $190,000 total out of that fund balance to use towards basically offsetting taxes. And that's not uncommon. We end up with a surplus at the end of the year. If things go well, we'll put it back into the fund balance. The fund balance ends up getting overfunded from time to time. We can use that to offset taxes on a regular basis. And you've seen that in previous budgets. So what does this mean? When you combine these budgets, the total by taxation is $10,003,445. That is a reduction of $47,330. Or 0.5%. So we actually have an overall tax reduction in this budget, or with these two budgets, I should say. So, mill rate calculation. So there's a differential between the mill rate and the taxes. So the mill rate is basically a calculation factor based on the value of all the personal property in the town. You divide that by 1,000, blah, 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 and that is where your estimated, where your property taxes are assessed for, when you get that tax bill from the town clerk's office. Okay. So the mill rate, because of the changes in the way that the state is valuing, but the state passed some laws that required that we value automobiles differently than in the past. So the mill rate has to change a little bit. So that basically the value of all your automobiles for the purposes of taxation was reduced. So because of that, the actual tax on your vehicles is going to go down. So the calculated mill rate actually goes up. Okay? So we ended up with a mill rate going from 3.146 last year to 31.59. That's an increase of 0.42%. But I do want to estimate that your taxes overall are still going down. The average household in Andover will pay slightly less for your vehicle taxes, slightly more for your property taxes, such as your home taxes or land or something that you own in the town. Okay. But the net result is a reduction. So here's a summary of the total taxation with given these two budgets, offset by revenue. The calculated mill rate is 31.59. As I said, it's a slight increase. The house assessed of $200,000 would pay roughly $6,318 in town taxes. However, as I said, for most taxpayers, your tax bill overall will go down. Okay. With an overall taxation decrease in Andover of 0.5%. Capital plan, I'm not really going to go through all these projects. We covered them quite in some detail at the last meeting. There are quite a bit, a lot of road bridge construction, municipal generator, general road work, Longville Road, culvert replacement, generator backups, additional projects, and that's pretty much what we're on. Okay. So I hope that that was clear. We didn't go through a lot of the line items, but I hope you see what has changed. And everyone understands the budget that's presented here will go directly to referendum in 2 weeks. So we'll give you the opportunity to ask any questions you have now.
Thank you, Mark. Questions for Mark?
Can you say anything about Parkwood Lake Road? Can you say anything about what line item would change in the education budget between the 0.8% and the 5%?
Do we have two microphones?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, perfect.
The short end is zero. We didn't change any line items in the education budget. So the question was, can you tell us what line items, if any, were changed, or what line items were changed in the school budget? And the answer is the Board of Finance and the town government do not have the authority to make any changes within the school line items. That's up to the Board of Ed to determine how they spend the amount of money that's allocated to them. So.
Yeah, I'm coming. I'm coming.
You want me to let to make up for it? For you and Jerry, you live for a right? Okay, how's this? Perfect, all right. So my first question, and I guess this was really more for the town attorney. I'm looking at the 803 section E, and I'm assuming that the vote was based on the line that says, the budget is convened at first referendum or for a second vote for the town meeting. It's not saying shall, it's saying or, and it's a little vague and squishy, so I want to know why that's your implication.
If anybody wants to read it in the language, and it's excerpted up here on the.
Where is the or in there?
First time.
First line? The sentence that I'm relying on, it says the Board of Finance shall review any rejected budget that was rejected and present for review and discussion only the same or revised budget. Oh, there's the or, to a subsequent town meeting held exactly 1 week after the day of the referendum. So the budget was revised. If it was held, it just, that's just there to tell the Board of Finance that they can't revise the budget as they did, or they can leave it the way it is and present it to the town meeting. I don't see where that changes anything with regards to whether or not you can vote tonight.
So I'm on the town website and I'm looking at the charter for November 2024, and that is not the language that is there.
Well, I thought I was looking at it too. Where's it? Can you read that to me again?
Entire sentence if you like. Just want to find it. Or I can even bring up my phone. I'm happy to help you out there. Because I have an issue with the fact that the town raised the budget and the school did not.
All right, so it's pretty take a while. Grabbing a pair of those. So it's the same thing I got. I don't see what is.
Microwave, but it doesn't say shall. It's in the
What the hell? It shows you. I'm sorry.
shall is she. I just want to have to go to
I would personally go with you.
I'll take the mic. Give us a couple seconds, please. You can all talk bad things about me, Don. Get at it. Okay, hey, can I do this one too? Okay, here's what we're gonna do. These two individuals are gonna go over here and determine the legal side of this, and we're gonna ask some more questions and move on, so we don't waste our evening. Is that okay? Good? Caitlin, question. Okay, back. Yep.
I'm coming. Like I said, I'm old and I'm a little slow.
Hi, so I have a different question, and it probably would help more if you go back to the slide, where you're showing the three different projects and the permanent impact and the time increase. You said that you guys had back in the 89,000 educational cost savings for the town. Does that divided, by student and applied to the school budget and the RAM budget, or where does that show in these numbers overall as a percent increase or decrease?
The short answer is the educational cost there is just revenue, helps offset the educational costs in the town.
So it's under the town budget, but it directly goes.
It's under the revenue, yeah. The whole thing is the town budget, right? It's just that the numbers are being approved. So all the educational cost sharing is under the revenue for the town, right?
Okay, so that 9,000 is part of that negative 104.
No, it's in the revenue. You don't see the revenue line here.
It's just for.
But wouldn't it be part of that negative 104 difference if you guys, from the last time you did a budget?
No, the 104 is the town budget, exclusive of education.
So I don't,
The budget, the town budget is just cost. It doesn't include any revenue. The revenues are not there. The taxes are not there. The permits are not there. The educational cost sharing is not there. The state grants are not there. None of the revenues are shown.
so I don't understand. I thought on that other slide, you guys said that you added that 89,000 back in because you're expecting it.
We added the $89,000 into the revenues. Yeah, it's the overall revenue offsetting, and we didn't, it doesn't affect the school budget one way or the other. The same way it didn't affect the school budget when we lost the $89,000 and we thought the governor was taking it out. So,
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm so confused. I just don't understand, like, if it doesn't
Yeah.
affect any of this, where.
It's
where it
easier
is.
if you look at the budget spreadsheet, which is obviously.
It's not even that, Caitlin. If we do not get the $89,000 back, we have to tax the residents of the town $89,000 a year. That's all it means. It's the educational cost sharing grant that we get. It's about $2.1 million. I don't know the exact number, but it's in that ballpark, right?
I knew it was around.
Okay, so if it's 2.1 million, we get, or it's 2 million, there's $100,000 in revenue we've lost. We have to tax the residents $100,000 a month. Has nothing to do with the budget, nothing to do with an expense line, zero. Just about what we have to raise through taxes.
Okay, I was just confused because you guys had it on the slide, so I wasn't sure if it ended up being part of a total of something.
yeah, maybe in the future it'd be helpful to include in the summary the revenue line also. You know, because that really, just total by taxation, it would make more sense.
Okay, do we have, Wally, do we have an answer?
Yeah.
Okay.
My answer is that I stand by my original opinion that I stated earlier tonight. That this time, you cannot have a vote at this town meeting. Okay, it's clear to me in that section that is correct. Okay, she's focusing on a different section of the rule. It says there's two contingencies that can generate a split budget. One is the rejection of the budget at a referendum, or rejection of the budget at a referendum has happened. So the or doesn't matter. It's or at a second town meeting, which is unlikely to happen anyway. Okay, so you're not likely to get to a second town meeting after rejected budget.
But for
Or you will, but
the budget you put up, the language you put up there was the old budget, correct? The old, charter, right?
No,
I didn't see it.
the answer is no. Let's move on. Question.
Dennis Scammon, Shouting Mill Road. Can you tell me if the fund balance, that was the numbers that were up there, when you're getting ready to use the surplus that we need to use so that we stay in favor of the state's amount, does that include what is now happening with the surplus money that the Board of Education budget gets to hold?
No, that's a completely separate fund.
So the state's not looking at that money of the $400,000 that they now have.
The state really isn't looking at any of it, they just want, in a sense, they just providing some guidelines.
Right, I understand that.
You know, we have the contingency or the general fund, we have the town road fund, we have the tree fund. All of those funds are, in theory, those are funds available to the towns should something happen, we can.
I totally understand that, and I am always in favor of using our fund balance to reduce taxes. Because as I stated in many meetings, we've already paid taxes on that money. So I would rather use the fund balance to decrease what we're moving forward for in the next year for taxation. That's my problem with the Board of Education budget getting to keep $400,000. I know we're still responsible for fixing everything at the school. As a town, we're committed to, all these capital projects. But I stated last time, and I want to state it again, I don't agree that from year to year, they should be able to keep 100% of their surplus money in a separate account. Because I think what you did this year by using part of that fund balance to offset our taxes is what we should be looking at every single year. And if you don't mind, I'm going to say that, sir, Mr. Lawyer, I do not agree with you either on being able to vote at this meeting. I take that, and from when he voted in the charter, I remembered that it would be 2 votes before it got separated. One being the referendum vote, then we come here. We are presented with this new budget with a decrease. We vote on it as a town to send it back to referendum. If we don't vote on it as a town to send it back to referendum, that's when it gets separated. That was my interpretation back then, and as I read it tonight on the screen, that's still my interpretation. I know we have to go with you because we're paying the big bucks, but that I don't think.
No, you're not.
I don't think that's the language that we're seeing on the screen. Thank you.
I disagree.
I know you do.
Again.
The first thing is the Board of Education does not keep all of their surplus each year. That's not the case. In this last year, and there's some issues related to it, they had a surplus of $400,000. They put 2% in their non-lapsing in your AES surplus fund, and then the Board of Finance agreed to move the remainder into their capital improvement.
I understand that, but I just want to say.
But I'm just sitting there telling you, it's not every year. that the Board of Education
I
gets.
thought moving forward it was going to be every year.
No, no. Okay,
First year.
this is the first year, I agree, first year.
Can you clarify, like, who's responsible for that account? Is not,
It is the town of Andover and the Board of Selectmen.
thank you.
Okay. But then again, the Board of Selectmen should be responsible for sending to the Board of Finance its requests as to where the capital and where the money goes to which funds. That will be dealt with after, that will be dealt with after this, not this meeting. So here's what I'd like to do, because I have some problems, and I have some problems with this budget, with the process of this budget. So I'm telling you as a person that sits on a board, I just want to address some questions, and I'm going to tell the Board of Education members, can you bring the microphone back to them? So here's my problem. Board of Education members, you should be up front with us again. We should have you up here. You should be up here. You know that. I know. I wasn't here.
That's fine, and then, if you want.
You guys should be up here. We're all one town, we're all one crew. So here we go. All right? Did the Board of Education, when the budget was presented to you, did you make any modifications to the budget presented to you by the superintendent?
We didn't make any modifications to the budget as it was presented on the day when it was presented. All of those are recorded meetings that everyone who lives in this town has free access to at any point in time. I don't think that your line of questioning right now is appropriate for
Just-
this meeting then.
Yep.
Speaking for the congregation.
No, this is questions I have. I wanted to ask them at the last Board of Finance meeting, and I was not allowed to deal with public speaking again, so I have to ask the question. The people in this community, and listen to me, please, I'm begging you. I am not anti-school. This has nothing to do with anti-school. I sent 2 children through the school. They got a tremendous education, and I am so thankful to the teachers within the school. But if we as a community cannot understand that we have to have balance as to what we do within these processes, we're in trouble. And I'm asking you, I would like to just ask some questions, not really difficult questions, just trying to get an understanding, because we as a town have to understand this as a group. Whether we agree with anything or not, it's a budget process. I will tell you it from doing hundreds of budgets, that I have never gone through one process where someone didn't make a modification to a budget. And what has happened in this current budget is our Board of Education doesn't appear to me to have made any major modifications to the budget as presented, and the Board of
I need
Finance.
to interrupt you then.
Sure, go ahead.
Now you're making allegations towards our board. We had several budget workshop meetings
No
prior to
allegations.
having the budget presented when we passed it.
Okay.
Just as you guys do as the Board of Selectmen, and I really think that this is inappropriate for what this meeting is supposed to be right now.
Okay. I'm not a board, I want to be a resident because my taxes will go.
But you're not a resident right now. You're the first selectman of the town.
Okay.
And I will tell you, the last time we had this meeting, which you were not at,
I am.
I asked if you were supposed to sit up front, and I was told, I don't know, maybe if you guys want to. So Valerie and I sat at the end of the table,
Should-
squashed next to each other.
They made a mistake, and I apologize.
Well, where are we supposed to sit tonight?
I would have put more tables up.
So show me where they are.
You have a microphone right now, okay, you ready? Okay, so, the next thing is, right, did you undertake a detailed review? Because I never see in any of your documents, you never post the detailed review.
Mark, can I ask to interrupt this? This meeting is correct? It's supposed to be about the town, the budget right now. This is not.
It's not my meeting, it's a town meeting, so it's really up to the moderator.
Okay. Wally, I rescind, I'll, unlike the other people that will sit there and write a yellow flyer and be disrespectful to the rest of the community, I will write one and put my name on it. Okay?
All right, if we can get back to this meeting, it's about the budget, it's about your questions, so the Board of Finance can answer them. If you have questions about the budget for the Board of Finance, raise your hand, I'll give you the microphone. Yes, ma'am.
The selectmen acting. Questions?
My name is Betty Barnes, and I live on the My name is Betty Barnes, and I live at 151 Wayside Drive. My question is, it's the Board of Finance, is about the, 300 and some odd $1,000 of excess funds, as well as the $100,000 in capital improvements. If this budget went forward with $100,000 in capital improvements, and you were good with that, and the board was good with that, why are we now taking that $100,000 away, but giving them $340,000? And why do we need extra capital improvement dollars when 2 weeks ago we didn't?
Just to clarify, I think you're confusing last year's budget with this year's budget. When I talked about the changes, the only changes was made to the capital funds from the last town meeting is we added back $25,000 into the town road improvement fund. That's it. There's no other changes. The changes that were done were, the differentials you see, what I talked about were from last year's budget. That's why this year's budget is overall different.
Explain more. Yeah, it was $100,000 every year, like capital improvement funds for the school. That's what happened last year. This year we didn't, we're putting excess. Yes, what we're saying.
Is this what you wanted? Is this what you want to refer to?
Yeah, so it appears it says change funding to AES capital fund. The school is instructed to be funded from AES surplus. We reduced the $500,000, now funded by the surplus of 316. So did we have the 316 in the prior budget?
Yes.
No.
I mean, should be a couple weeks ago or last year?
In the 2024, 2025 fiscal year budget, we had $100,000 to fund the AES capital fund. In this budget, we removed that and we zeroed out that contribution to the AES capital fund. And the reason we did that was because we had just funded it significantly with the surplus that the school had last year. So that has not changed from the last budget.
The $100,000 going to adjustment to the last budget is an adjustment.
Correct, yeah, and I'm sorry for the confusion, it's hard to cover all this, but the only change to the capital budget from the last proposed budget was to restore $25,000 in the town road funds.
So my follow-up question then is, do we know what the $361,000 in capital improvements in school is? No, they're fine.
Eric, you want to answer this?
No.
Okay.
The request for that money to be spent on the bathrooms in the school, that is the initial request. And I'm not sure if we've gotten the capital plan from the Board of Education yet to sit there and identify all of the other projects that they potentially would like to sit there and deal with.
Yes,
Okay. And did you provide it to Eric? Provided it to the Board of Finance? Okay, we're definitely good. Wally, can I ask one other question? Two questions, actually. I'll be quick. Board of Finance members, did you guys get an understanding if the preschool program is totally self-funded? Have you seen a reconciliation on that? Sure.
I'll go back.
Go ahead.
I wanted to, can you hear me? I just wanted to address that, we wanted to let you also know that the AES did voluntarily give them the money, the $100,000 for the capital fund because they knew they were going to have it. So with that question, they volunteered to give the $100,000 back. came to a couple of our meetings. Like Jeff says, when we do have a Board of Finance meeting, we do make cuts. Our committee or our board has to make the cuts or whatever. So that probably is a big question, but they did volunteer to give the $100,000 back, knowing they had a surplus, knowing it was going to roll over into the AES capital fund account that was established last year, along with a list of a lot of things that needed to be funded. As far as the prepay, there was a lot of questions from the Board of Finance back and forth with the Board of Ed and with the superintendent. And I don't know, a lot of you don't know that I also work in a school and I was a grants accountant. So when, for one of my roles. So when I did see the documents from the school, I understand where the preschool funding was coming from. Is that, I don't know the people clearly, so, you know.
Tuitions and their grants.
Right.
They're charging tuition to out-of-town students that come in, they pay tuition, the rest of it is funded by grants.
Did you get a reconciliation on that? Did you? I won't be, I just.
I don't know, they might have to.
Okay, and I gotta ask the Board of Finance this question, because I did ask this before. How many out-of-town students are attending, out of the 60 students that we have there, how many are out-of-town students?
Now.
Oh, Board of Education.
First of all, can you hear me? First of all, I do want to apologize to the town members, especially those members who are here for their very first meeting or have just moved to town, because this isn't who we are. I definitely want you to know that. Definitely not who we are in this school. There's been a lot of questions about preschool. There's been a lot of questions about preschool, which I'm actually surprised that the first selectman can't answer, since he is legally on this school readiness council that oversees preschool. We have a number of places that oversee preschool. The preschool program is overseen first and foremost by the State Department of Education. It is then overseen by the OEC, which is the Office of the Early Childhood Management. It'll now be an Early Start umbrella starting July 1st. After that, it is overseen by NIAC. It is overseen by the School Readiness Council here. Then it is overseen by myself, the Board of Education. You do not see a line item in the budget that says preschool, because as Mr. Gross just started to say, we collect revenue that is separate from that. The revenue that is collected means that preschool is predominantly paid for solely by the tuition and by grants. The grants are school readiness, which is going to change names, but it's school readiness and Smart Start. We currently receive over $200,000 in that revenue source. We also then receive tuition, and we almost had that part. Everybody pays tuition who are residents or non-residents, unless they fall below a certain threshold or unless they have a student that has special needs. Because by law, those students that are of special education, we have to provide those services for as a public school district, just like everybody else, without charging them. If you do the math, we currently have 53 people. We have 4 classrooms, and ideally there are 15 in each classroom. A couple of them have 16 right now. There are 53 students that are Andover residents or AES families. 53 of those spots. Yes, we have 3.5 rooms full of Andover residents and AES families. Why would you run a 4th room half full when you have spots in there? You have to have the room anyways. You have to have the teacher anyways. You have to have the parent anyways. Why would you run a room half full? So, yes, we filled the rest of that room with out-of-towners. We had a waiting list a mile long. They pay $6,000 a year to be those spots. We haven't opened any rooms for out-of-towners. We have empty spots. And why would you have an empty spot that's worth $6,000 a year? We filled it with out-of-towners. So that's been a question. There are people that have kept saying, like, you're definitely, I mean, where is this money coming from? Do the math. If there are 64 people, and those rooms each had the full capacity plus the extra, there's 64 kids
paying $6,000, and not everybody pays the full, but $6,000 because some of the people receive the grant funding and don't pay the full. Do the math. If I had 75 kids, how many hundreds of thousands of dollars I would be bringing in? That money's real money. That is what runs those programs. The other question that I'll address, if somebody's gonna ask it, is, well, do you take, because this is what they asked, do you take and charge preschool classrooms part of your overall expense, like part of your electricity, part of your garbage? I do not. I do not pull that out. Nor do I charge the town tonight for this meeting with the electric on. Nor do I charge pickleball when they come and play in here. Nor do I charge basketball. We don't break it up like that. Like I said, that's not who we are. I pay the bill. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the superintendent said that I was on the readiness committee. I know my name is on there. I have never attended a readiness committee, so I apologize for that. But I did get the details from the group, right? So just asking. You stated that your grant revenue is somewhere around $200,000. No, I'm just gonna sit there and go, because you are saying the numbers add up. I am an accountant. The numbers don't end up for me. So I'm sitting there going, currently, this year, the funding from those two grants is $107,000, state documented.
That's not true.
Come have your document. Here it is. I'm not kidding. I'm not lying. And then people, residents of Andover, just so I get this, because the school program, the school program, the pre-K program has bothered me because it is stated that the program is self-funded. They're $500 a month for pre-K tuition.
That's not tuition.
It's $600 a month, even if it's $6,000 a year, divided by 10 months of school is $600 a month. And according to the school readiness document that you provided, that's been here, the grant people pay less, and the non-grant revenue, the way that it's stated here, based upon your numbers, because this is your document, is $477. So I'm just telling you, when I do the math, I go, annual tuition is $217,000. The maximum grants that you have even documented in your program for multiple years, the state, for those programs is $165,000. That totals up to $383,000, correct? I'll tell you, I did the math. Let's say I'm right. How many teachers are in each school, in each classroom? One teacher, right? Let's sit there and in your documents that you have here, sit there and say, one teacher's salary was $96,000, right? And the other teachers are different numbers. I am just asking. I don't even want to argue. Is there a reconciliation for these numbers? Just tell me there's a reconciliation and I'll be okay. The rest of the community can see it. Everybody can get the documents.
Well, as it scores, you are fully aware that the auditor audits all records of the town and school.
Did you provide the auditor with a reconciliation that the pre-K program has zero cost to the taxpayers of this county?
If you two could stop a minute, please.
No, that is not the truth, and you know that.
I think we're getting off the subject, way off the subject. This is a budget hearing. It's about budget.
All these questions brought out by the flyer, we all know that was part of reading the budget failed. If you want responses to it, the answers to these questions, kids have been passing around this document, there's one in the back, there's one here, just go to the website. It documents everything, it's got a lot of detail, and it does not answer that last question Jeff asked, but it's there. Meanwhile, this is a budget hearing. Do we have a plan? Do we know any idea where we go if this budget fails? Is there a general plan?
I'd have to go back and look through the very convoluted language of the charter, but basically, if what'll happen is in 2 weeks, we have a referendum. There'll be 2 different votes, one on the town budget, one on the AES budget. If either or both of those fail, the Board of Finance will then repeat this process. We will have another meeting the week after the referendum. We will make a decision about, we'll make a decision to present another recommended budget, maybe the same, maybe not. And we'll have another meeting apparently for informational only, and then we'll have another vote 2 weeks later. So this process, I believe, continues until it doesn't.
I'm
Until
sorry, my
everything
question
passes.
wasn't about the process so much as, does the board have some general idea of what would happen next? Where we might have to start, what, you know?
No, we haven't discussed that at all.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Marcia Meyer here in West Street. I think a lot of the problem that we have is trying to understand the budget for the Board of Education. It's not even here. We have the town budget, but we don't have the Board of Education budget at all. I tried to find it on the website and I couldn't find it. There's a 404 error or something like that. So anyway. All right, so it's there. I'm sorry that I didn't find it. That's my fault. But a lot of the Board of Education meetings are in executive sessions with a lot of things that we don't see. And also the budgets, you know, I have a quote. You guys have this trouble, you're disrupting everybody. Mine? Okay, so what I'm saying is, it would be nice if we had clear and concise budgets that we can look at and understand. The town budget is here, it's printed, and you can look at it. The Andover elementary school budget is not. So, it would be respectful to us if we were able to examine it and see for ourselves how the money is being spent. And frequently, when I do look at the budgets, it looks to me like a lot of the numbers just get transferred year after year after year. You know, and there's so many lines, supplies, $500 in 2021, $500 in 2022, $550 in 2023. It just doesn't look like a real concise, accurate picture of where the money is going. So that's all I'm saying, is it would be nice if there were a little transparency.
Shannon Loudon, Bears Farm Road. Just like the town budget, the Andover Elementary School budget has a line-by-line budget. It has been on the school's website for months. If you take the time to look at it, you will find every single line item, from teacher salaries, to benefits, to classroom expenses, to utilities, oil, you name it. We are just as transparent as the town, and I am tired of hearing that we are not. We have this line-by-line budget. We go over it for many meetings before we approve it. This year and last year, we had, well, excuse me, I'll do last year. Last year, we had 6 budget workshops. Then we approved our budget. People come to this meeting who have never been to a Board of Education meeting throughout the entire year and don't understand our budget. If you want to understand our budget, please come to a budget meeting. Voice your opinion. Ask questions. Tell us what you don't approve of. We will absolutely provide information that is critical to help you make your decision. Please come to a Board of Ed meeting and ask us questions before we get to a town meeting, and the Board of Finance has done all of its work to pass a town budget that includes the Board of Education budget. Thank you.
Hi, Mike House, 165 Road. Just for the benefit of people, where is that budget located? It's on the Andover Elementary School website. I understand that the town website has a link that might not be quite accurate, but we know that the school website, you can access that budget on the school website. And then we can do meetings. What process do I need to go through to be invited to the meeting? You're not, you don't have to be invited. You can just pass it in where?
We post an agenda on the town website.
You post an agenda on the town website. Is that going to work? Is it also posted on the school website?
Yes.
It is posted on the school website. Okay. And then these meetings, they're not just specifically an executive session, like the public can attend and you can find out what's going on in these. So where do you have it? Okay. Thank you so much for answering my question.
One move around with this.
Ron Langley, Seaman. All we're asking is to have something like writing. There's a lot of elderly people that live in this town. We don't have any access, but access to me. So all we're asking for is something in writing like they have in town, and we all understand. I think that's what we're saying that.
Yes.
That way, that.
Andover, just wanted to address the tangential of the budget, but you're right, you brought up the issue with the charter that was presented. The charter, as you know, was revised last year, and in fact, was chaired the Charter Revision Commission. We have two other members of the commission sitting up there right now, Jeff and Carol. I spent some time over the last 10 minutes taking a look at what has been put up on the screen there, what is on the town website, as well as the last interim draft that I saw, which was June 15th. And the sections that were reviewed are all different from these three documents. So we obviously have an issue with tradition control. This was an ongoing challenge during the charter review because there were a lot of moving parts. There were a lot of things that were referenced, other things, and you know, so. And I unfortunately had to drop out of the process beginning of July due to illness. But I will say for the record here, I'm going to try to reconnect with Carol, who is vice chair of this, and tomorrow or the next day if we can, and see if we can figure out where this process went wrong. Because clearly, what was reviewed, what was published, as well as what I have in correspondence, none of these things agree. So we have a problem.
Thank you.
Donovan, the Lakeside Drive. The Board of Ed has half of our budget. So I would say this, I've got my town budget here. I'm not that computer savvy. If you folks, as you've heard a couple times already, provide us with a document at our first town budget meeting, we will be better informed. Okay, that would be extremely helpful to me and a lot of other people here. I can read down the town budget and see what we're paying the state trooper, and see what we're paying public works. We would like to see the same thing from you folks. I appreciate you got it on the web, but that doesn't help us here. No? So if you can provide us with a document, please let me finish. Please let me finish. Don't interrupt me. So if you can provide us with a document, that would be very helpful in the beginning of the budget process. Now, secondly, I think the Board of Finance has done a reasonable job with the vote that took place, with the current percentage of spending increase they've given to the Board of Ed. 5% is a reasonable number. 80, 40, whatever it was a little rough. So I think that is a big move. Also, since the budget was defeated, and we don't get to vote today, which is also very upsetting, okay? Not, Carol told me this afternoon, we don't get to vote today. I mean, where are we going? We can't vote. We have to wait for a referendum? So hopefully, Bob, maybe we can change that so we don't go through this if the budget gets defeated again. Now, Board of Finance, Public Works. If we're looking at the down budget, and this thing goes down again, we have $360,000 in Public Works out of it. And capital expenditures over the last 7 years with 16% spending increase last year. Now, I understand what that was here, and truly, I'm very happy that we get a little bit of a tax decrease this year. Hallelujah. We can use it. The economy is unstable right now. All of us can tighten our belt a little bit would be nice. So we should look at both budgets, depending on how the vote goes in 2 weeks, and maybe we're back here, maybe we're not. But either way, I would personally ask Valerie and her staff to get us this little pamphlet of the budget. That would be very helpful. And I asked the Charter Revision Committee to revisit the section, whatever it is. What section we got there? 803? 803 to review that and see if that's appropriate. Because I don't think that's very accepted here today. Thank you.
I got about repeats. Anybody that hasn't spoken, use the mic, please. Anyone who hasn't spoken, raise your hand before I go back to people for the second or third time. Seeing none. I'm sorry. I can't see that good enough.
Well, I just had a follow-up question to Mr. Hamburger since he was on the committee. I'm so glad, that was one of my questions before. If I served on a committee and I changed such a big charter, point, because truthfully, the Board of Finance had a big problem with this week as well, as far as not giving the voice a vote to the people that come to the meetings. So there have been emails back and forth, and as was talked about, we even brought it up at our Board of Finance meeting that we had last Wednesday, right after the budget failed. And I believe Mr. McGuire and I were on the same page of thinking there was going to be voting today. But again, then it went to the attorney for interpretation and all of those kind of things, just because of back and forth. I think I sent an email that every time I read it, I come up with a different thought. So I wonder, why do charters have to be so confusing? And we find some really clear language. I know that Carol Lee, in her formal role, probably has overseen so many things. I just wish it was clear. Because the question that was brought up from an audience person earlier today with the either or, I read the same thing, it fails here and it's here, but anyways, I did want to make it known to the town person out there. I won't speak to the Board of Ed and the preschool, I just said that they had voluntarily given us the $100,000 back because of the surplus, and they made that cut voluntarily. I did, as you know, I proposed a few cuts to the town side, because the budget did fail overall, to Public Works, to a couple things. I really didn't have too much support there. So I don't know where we go with that, but I did listen to the people that did vote both sides now. Thank you.
I just wanted to comment that I think I've been a senior resident in Andover. I've been with due diligence all the time, and the reason I was there thought how some of you are going together as a advocate to put up the school system in Andover. I serve on the Economic Development Commission, I thought they were my own, but the school is one of the few things, quite frankly, that this town has to attract the people to it. And I think as a community, we need to step back and look at that. I am working hard on the commission, for anyone that wants to join us, to, put some other things out there as well. But let's just keep that in mind, that the school is, is serious, and one of those few things that this town has to attract people to this community, to make sure that we have a continued black face. And I don't like how this town, everybody season devolves into a debate about those towards school and those against school. I think we can do better than that. I don't want to have to explain to my child as they're driving around town why there's signs that it is about the children. It just shouldn't be like this.
Two quick responses today. One to Don Denley. This is not a Board of Ed meeting. There is one tomorrow. You can go to that, and I'm sure they'll have the budget there for you if you want it. But ask the people who put this meeting on, which is selectmen and why the Andover budget isn't there. They should be able to tell you. As to Bob Hamburger, you guys were asking about that. The language up there, the language that we saw up there was the 2022 language, and it was the same thing that Dennis was talking about. The 2024 language has changed that section, but it is, as it's presented on the website anyway, it is changed from that, but it is the same thing. That is not a change from this charter revision, but the one before. So don't blame Bob. Or Carol.
Wait a minute.
I just wanted to say again that this is supposed to be a question about the budget, not about the process. We have a respected attorney who spent a long time looking at whether we should, vote at this budget or not. So I feel like we should just respect his decision and move forward. There's probably questions we wanted to ask on the budget, and now it's getting late, so let's stick to the budget, all right?
Oh, shut the camera off. Wait,
Since I opened up that can of worms, it's had a couple more minutes. What was on the screen was not the 22 version of the revision. The 22 and 24 803 ECD are identical, at least what's on the website. What we just saw up there most closely resembles the interim working copy that I mentioned that I saw on July 15th. So if I had to make a judgment call right now, what we saw up there is probably the final wording that the Board of Selectmen, they're the ones that have the last go at the charter. And so that's probably, there are a few things that were added to what was up on the screen that were not in the July 15th revision that I had in my email record. So if I had to make a guess, I would say that what we saw up on the screen is what we passed. It's just not what's on the website right now. So there's your revision control. What we're publishing on the website has old information. It doesn't reflect what was actually worked on last summer. So hopefully the can of worms is a little bit smaller. I said we have a problem, the problem may not be as significant as some might want to think. But I still want to go through this with Carolyn.
Let's keep on the budget. I'm open. The third time, second time. Sure. Yeah,
second.
I lose, Tom.
So anyway, my second time on. So I would just like to say to the Board of Ed and parents that we have a well-run school. Our superintendent is committed, he does a great job. This town has supported the school for a long, long time. And it certainly is one of our starting places here. I totally agree. But We also have to balance it between those of us that are on fixed incomes, seniors, people without children in school anymore. So it's a bit of a balance. And that's all we're asking. And all I'm asking is a couple other people as well. This isn't the same document, the education budget, $4 million that we get for the town budget. So I think it's a reasonable request. Thank you for coming out, and the town of Andover is a fine place to live. I love living here. I've lived here for 29 years. I'm supportive education. Good education means good citizens, and so I'm totally on board with that. Thank you.
If there are no more questions on the budget, I will entertain a motion to adjourn since we cannot vote on anything.
Motion to adjourn. Second. Celeste Willard, Lake Road.
Second, Jerry Renee.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, Mr. Chair.